I think we're live. Welcome to the WCS Season 1 Global Finals. I am Wolf, and with me is Kauder. We got hand mics today, so this is going to be a very interesting experience.
Yeah, we are very Korean today, so there's no Korean stream for the WCS, at least not provided by GOMTV, and therefore we have our hand mics today, which makes me feel a little bit fancy.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the old days. This is how esports casting used to always be done with a hand mic. If you weren't doing it from home, and now we're doing it Korean style here.
Yeah, if you weren't doing it from home, you were doing it wrong. We are starting with our first group today. We have Group B at the WCS Season Finals, the first one this year, and it's actually going to be really amazing. I'm so happy that we are getting to cast Group B, not only because we have the European champion, and of course, me being European, my heart is beating for MVP now today, but we also have players like Ryung, Alicia, and Kongo.
Yeah, Kongo is somebody I'm really looking forward to seeing, as well as Alicia. He had a great run through NA. And Kongo is somebody who's always really needed that big tournament. When he made it to the finals, got smacked down by his teammate in ST so long ago, 4-0, and maybe he could actually go all the way today as well. He's been looking on fire in Heart of the Storm. He's improved quite a bit over his performance in Wings of Liberty, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and viewers that have been watching the camera already for a little bit in our picture, they have seen that we have also a third caster in the studio. Feeling a little bit lonely right now at the bottom in front of the stage is Artosis, who is doing a solo cast right now for Group, I think Group A, if I'm not mistaken. So the three of us are currently at the studio and doing our best here to bring you a coverage. And later on, of course, there will also be an audience here in the studio itself. So far, it's still pretty early in Korea. We have, I think, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's just over 10 a.m. right now, Korean Standard Time. So I think that's like 3 a.m. in Europe. And so let's take a look at some of our information going into the finals here. I'm going to put up a little graphic for you guys to see. It's double elimination best of threes today, and then of course tomorrow it goes into best of 5 tournament format outside of the groups.
Exactly. Today we have the group stage, what you use from Codes. That's exactly what you're going to get today. So we have the best of 3s between the players. I already mentioned that our first game is going to be MVP versus Ryung in a Terran versus Terran. Really exciting for that one, especially since Ryung is such a great player in the mirror matchup.
Yeah.
But then we are heading on into the next game between Lucira and aka Kangho against Alicia, and that's also be a really good match.
We also have Newkirk Redevelopment Precinct, which I'm just going to refer to as Newkirk because that's a really complicated name. As one of our maps, you guys may not recognize it, is a changed ladder map, so don't forget about that. And here are our players. We already talked about the group that we have coming up, but this is all the players who made it to the finals.
Yeah, the race distribution really interesting here, as you can see. We're going to go through that a little bit later on, but of course, if you just look at it by region, then you have 6 players from Korea, whereas 5 from Europe and America joined today to battle it out, the first season final here. And that's going to be an intense weekend. It's going to be really great to cast all these games, and especially, of course, the 3 non-Koreans that we have in this, in the lineups here. To see how they will fare, that's going to be quite the journey.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be really tough for them. All of them coming from Europe, in fact, interesting to note.
And all of them being Zergs.
Yeah, very true. And we'll take a look at, of course, the group breakdown so you guys can see exactly who everywhere is. Dan is currently casting Group A, and we'll be casting Group B. Yeah,
a lot of ZVZs here in Group A with Solki, with the TLO, and also, of course, with Stefano. A lot of Zerg versus Zerg that they have to play here. The only non-Zerg in the group is Alive, and in Group B we have MVP, Ryung, Kangho, and Alicia, as mentioned earlier. But later on today, we are heading then into Group C and Group D.
Yeah, and as far as if I'm correct, I think we are casting Group D. So, we'll give you guys updates on that on Twitter a little bit later. And, of course, all the updates will be on Team Liquid as well as GOMTV's site and everything else. But you'll know exactly what we're casting later, but it will be one of those 2 groups for sure.
Group D is going to be an interesting one. Also a lot of Zerg players in that group with Revival, Dimaga, and Roro. But we have Innovation in there. And Innovation, he just lost to Solki in the GSL finals. But this guy is so good, especially against Zerg. Not going to be easy for either one of those Zerg players to take him down.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking that Innovation might actually end up facing Solki again in the finals of the final, and that could definitely be a really, really exciting rematch to watch, considering the last time at the GSL finals we had such a close series between the two of them going all the way to Game 7. Incredible comeback by Solki, winning 4 games in a row, and there's a lot of history now between these 2 players, and whether they want to be or not, they're kind of rivals at this point.
So let's have a quick look at our first match today, at our first group, MVP versus Ryung, kicking things off here, and of course then we will have Kangho versus Alicia. The Terran versus Terran is going to be quite the interesting one. I mentioned that Ryung is really good in playing against Terran opponents, but MVP, he's a very experienced player, and especially in a tournament environment, he's always very dangerous to face.
Yeah, definitely so. I'm looking forward to seeing how MVP can perform here. He's been somebody who was dominant in Korea. He has 4 GSL titles, and of course now playing in other regions, still looking pretty strong. Not as dominant, but when Ali's back in Korea in his home turf, maybe he can definitely get, at least make some good showing in this group. It's going to be hard to get out against these 3 players who are all Code S level, all really, really high level Terrans and Processes.
And later on then we have Alicia, who used Void Race a lot when he was participating in WCS America. And he actually stated in an interview later on that he personally thinks that it's going to be really difficult for Zerg players to stop his Void Race style. That's something that Lucira has to prove later. But here we have Group D that we are casting on this stream later on today.
Yeah, it's going to be Innovation, Revival, Demaga, and Roro. Roro himself a GSL champion, Innovation a finalist, nearly getting that championship. And we've got Demaga, the foreign Zerg.
Yeah, Demaga is going to have a bit of a tough time here in Korea, but he has been practicing quite a lot and he did very well in WCS Europe. Today he has to prove himself in ZVZ most of all, and of course also against Innovation. And everyone is expecting Innovation to not only get out of this group, but also just really dominate this tournament, going very, very far, and then participate at least in the final at the weekend. He has to prove that he's able to do that, to pull it off. He has been showing a lot of games against Zerg, dominant in the matchup. But Revival, Roro, and Demaga, they have, of course, their own plans to take him on. Yeah,
Revival making it to the finals of WCS NA, looking really, really strong. Did eventually fall to Hero in the finals, but it was a really exciting series overall, and obviously he's going to have to completely shift gears into a totally different matchup in this group, but he might be able to get out as well. He's got a lot of good practice partners on EG to train with.
At first it really looked like Revival would crush Hero. The first few games they were so dominant, the Zerg player for EG did a really good job, but then Hero just bounced back and was able to take him out. But Revival nonetheless a really strong contender, and he did so well in WCS America. A lot of people expect great things from him in the future, and he can prove it with his CVZ now in this group later on today, and then of course try to get into the bracket stage that we have tomorrow. So really good games coming up, a lot of players, 16 in total competing here. We have 13 Koreans and 3 foreigners that try to be the first season champion for WCS.
Yeah, a foreigner making it to the finals would be such a great story. I think there's a lot of foreign fans out there hoping that one of these 3 Zergs may be able to go all the way. So many of them getting close in other tournaments, and it's always been a little bit of an unspoken rivalry, well, sometimes spoken quite highly, of Koreans versus foreigners, and everybody's always hoping that kind of rivalry can continue. And a few foreigners did make it here all the way to the Season 1 finals, so they have to at least prove that they're on the same level as some of these Koreans.
A lot of people have been talking especially about Group A, where we now have 2 of the foreigners participating. And on one hand I feel it's a little bit sad that they are facing each other in the group, but on the other hand that also gives the 2 foreigners that are in there, Stefano and TLO namely, a pretty decent chance of getting out of the group. So we might have one of the foreigners go into the bracket stage here, and I would personally have loved to see them all in different groups so that we see them a little bit more contending against these Korean players. But still, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to get out of the brackets, maybe even both of them.
Yeah, Demaga is somebody who I think also has a small chance. Obviously he has to go up against Innovation in the group, but otherwise he has 2 ZVZs he may end up facing in, and ZVZ is a matchup that Demaga is quite well versed in. If I'm not mistaken, he was the first player to take a ZVZ off Nest-T ever back in the day. So I mean, he's definitely got some very experienced ZVZ. He got a lot of good instincts there in the matchup. So maybe he could get out of his group as well.
Yeah, so we're just waiting for the games to get ready, and then we are starting also with our first matches here. And I'm really excited for the Terran vs. Terran. We've seen so many technical builds, especially coming out of Ryung. And MVP, of course, he knows all of this. He's been in Korea now for some time again, and he has been practicing against his opponent. This is the most important thing right now for a Starcraft player, to perform well at WCS. So a lot of preparation goes into these games. And when you know that you're up against 3 opponents in a group, you prepare for every opponent specifically. You have your team help out with strategies, analyzing what exactly the strategy of your opponents is. And I'm excited to see if we see once again such a technical build from Ryung.
Yeah, and this day 1 on Friday is the day where the most preparation is possible, because you've had the group known beforehand, but you don't know who you're going to face in the bracket stage because you don't know who's going to win. So tomorrow is going to be a much less preparation than there is today. Obviously you have the whole night to think about your opponents, and especially if you're in the early group you have a little bit more time. But as soon as you win and you find out who else wins, that's when Innovation, you got to start preparing again, and you don't have as much time. So we've got kind of two different types of formats. One is like more like the Code S group format, which is the one we're going into now, and then tomorrow, which is more like a weekend event like MLG or DreamHack type format, where you have to kind of on the spot start thinking of strategies.
Yeah, I completely agree. So it's, once again, you have to show just that you're capable of having both skill sets that you can work with. And WCS in general is just really shaping up these days. With the first finals now, we are going to head into the second seasons after this. And then, of course, all the regional ones will also be really interesting, since we have now all those qualifiers once again. We had already the Challenger Leagues going a long way. And especially in Europe, we have a few Korean players that really try to dominate the scene, but they were just not able to pull that off just now. We have a lot more of those participating in NA. But here we have our first player, of course. And this is actually Group A. This is Solky.
Yeah, just taking a look at some of Solky's stats here. As you can see him in the booth, he will be playing currently in Group A as we speak. But we could talk about him a little bit. He is, of course, the current GSL champion.
Yeah, the series against Innovation was a really, really exciting one. At first it looked like he's going to get crushed by Innovation, but then Solky just bounced back and was able to make his opponent pay. And at the end it looked like Innovation was showing nerves for the first time.
Yeah, for the very first time, he fell apart a little bit there. A really cool series to go back and watch. You know, you can check out the VODs on GOMTV.net later on if you'd like to. Don't do that right now, though, of course, there's a very important live stream on as we speak. And, you know, Solky just looking pretty ready there. Here's Alive, his first opponent.
Yeah, so this is one of the games that you're soon going to be seeing on our first stream that is currently being broadcasted by Atosis. We are focusing on MVP versus Ryung a little bit later on. I actually think that we are going to get an invite pretty soon so that we can start with a match. But both of the groups are being played at the same time, and that's also something that we are going to have then later on.
Yeah, definitely so. So that's the match that's going on, of course, right now behind us. As you can see on the screen over there, you can see Alive once more, and you can see Dan over there by himself. I got a shot of him drinking some coffee over there. Did you see that?
Yeah. Dan looks at his preview monitor and he's like, okay, I'm not on camera right now. It's just going to Alive. In a second, you're going to see him pick his nose and everything. You should just watch him closely. That's stuff that you have never seen before.
Yeah, he actually has to really carefully watch our preview monitor as well from all the way back there. And Calder, as long as you sit kind of like this, like he won't ever be able to see it and he won't know.
Do you know how he usually puts up his legs when he's casting and it just really leans back?
Yeah, he puts his feet up up on this thing when he looks in between his legs while he's going to look at the screen there.
So apparently a game has started. That's interesting since we didn't get an invite, but let's see if that's really our game. Or if we're now jumping into the Alive match. That's something that we have to figure out yet. But
I think that's the other game just started.
Okay, so the game between Alive
I just
and
got in the right lobby.
Solky is loading right now. We are in the right lobby for Ryung against MVP. Would have been a little bit interesting to see 3 streams for the same game, but we are jumping, of course, right now into the game that we are supposed to cast here with Group B. And I'm actually more excited for this than I am for the Zerg vs. Zerg group right now. On the one hand, this is the foreigner group, so my heart is beating here, especially for TLO, the German player, but also for Stefano. But Ryung versus MVP is going to be great.
Right, for me, this group is the more competitive one, the really, really serious group with all the top level players in it, and the foreigners may be able to get through their group, but for me, this one is more interesting, more exciting, and obviously, a lot of people are less excited to see ZVZs, I would say.
Yeah, the Terran versus Terran is going to be the only mirror matchup that we have in this group. Well, maybe they could play later on depending on the results that we have here, but really important though, of course, at this point is just to take this early lead, to go to the winner's match. That's what you try to achieve, and both players will give their best here. And especially when we have names like MVP and Ryung in one lobby, you are guaranteed a really good game. MVP is a 4-times champion. He has been dominating Starcraft 2 for a long, long time. Won WCS Europe, and now he's up against Ryung, who did really well at WCS America, and especially in this matchup, the player for Axiom Mesa is really shining.
Yeah, he used to be a sniper. Well, the map is loaded. It is Neo Planet S, and we're going to jump into it right now, introducing our players. Up here, the top right in the blue for the team LGIM, he is
LGIM MVP.
Also called MVP Jürgen, since he won WCS Europe. He's up against Terran player to the bottom left of the map. We have in red for Team Axiom. It is
Axiom Ryung from America.
He's from America, but not really.
Yeah. He won in America, but he's originally from Korea, so don't get fooled here. But really important to note is that he won every single TVT that he had to play in a WCS America in the Premier League. He took down Alive with the 2-1, and he was also successful against Pold. And we are starting things with a bang here. MVP knows fully well that his opponent is a master in TVT, and he doesn't want to go into a long game. He is going straight into the proxy barracks.
Yeah, he's doing an 8-8 Reaper build here. Barracks goes down on 8, so does the Refinery.
That's a build that has been used against Zerg for a long time, but it's also so strong against Terran, especially when your opponent starts with an early command center.
Right.
Such a Reaper build can take him down like in a flash.
And even if he goes for a normal opening, this is still really hard to defend. You have to micro your first Marine perfectly, and also your SCVs. You need to make sure you pull your SCVs back, and he's going to have to repair a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly, since we don't have any gas at this point for Ryung, he's just now taking the Refinery. It's also going to be a bit of an issue because he can't go into a factory tech with Hellions. That's something that you see occasionally when there is like more of a normal Reaper build opening.
Right.
But this is like a proxy Reaper. This is like the fastest Reaper that you can get out into the map. And even though Ryung is scouting right now, the first Reaper will be done by the time that he arrives at the top right.
And by the time the Reaper gets there, the Marine's not going to be ready. MVP could try to bunker the natural so he can have somewhere to run back to, but I don't think he's going to do that. Ryung will find out what's going on very soon here as he is sending his SCV, and he's going to know right away, oh, wait a minute, this is a proxy, I need to prepare. He might start a bunker immediately. That would be the smartest choice. He needs to get that bunker up ASAP. That's the best way for him to defend. He starts his own defensive Reaper, actually.
He sees that there's no wall, he sees the gas, here comes the SCV trying to take away a few of the hit points of the Marine, and now it's time for the Reaper to shine. Moving in, the Marine caught a little bit out on the map.
Yeah, he actually just ignores the Marine on the low ground and goes right for the SCV line here. Needs to do a ton of economic damage.
And more Reapers are now being built, and Ryung decides to fight fire with fire. He's building his own Reapers as we speak, but MVP already in the mineral line doing even more damage to his opponent.
Yeah, he's going to have 2 versus 1 Reapers. He falls back just so he can rely on that. Doesn't want to lose his first Reaper. And now it's going to just be a case of micro. How well can Ryung use his SCVs here?
And let's not forget that MVP will always have the superior Reaper count. So as long as he micros well, he should be able to do a lot of damage here. Jumping into his opponent's main base. Once again, MVP is certainly trying to take this game right now. Sniping another SCV, trying to.
Making him lose mining time as well.
Killing another SCV here, taking a few hits from the Reaper of his opponent. Trying to pick off another one, but now he doesn't have the high ground vision anymore. The Reaper jumps down. Ryung is trying to hunt down MVP's
He's
units.
counter bunkering right now in the main base of MVP. He's going to get caught, though. It was a great idea. Does not work out for him, unfortunately.
The Marine backed off into a corner and goes down, but the bunker might actually complete, and then he could sneak a Reaper to the top right. Unfortunately, the Reaper alone won't be able to do a lot here. Oh!
Nice micro there. Picks off one of his opponent's Reapers. Now he's going to have a 2 Reaper lead.
Really well done here. I mean, did you see that? Micro was crazy.
It was insane. He pulled it back at the very last second after targeting his opponent's Reaper. And Ryung now is just in a position where recovering from this seems to be impossible.
It's just a really huge blow for him. He's behind in Reapers. He has the same harvester supply than his opponent. And this is really important since Ryung originally had more SCVs than MVP because MVP went for this really early proxy barracks. So MVP is now in the same economy, jumping into the base once again, trying to retreat with the Reapers. This time, one of them is being picked off. But this is so much mining time that Ryung loses by keeping those SCVs at the corner.
Yeah. Currently, MVP is still working on that bunker just to make sure nobody sneaks by and gets a Reaper into the main base. That would be absolutely devastating. And also, Ryung starts his own command center here.
He's a little bit faster with the CC here, but MVP has apparently no plans of going straight into an expansion. No, he's going into the starport here. And with the starport alone, he can do a lot. He could even go into Banshees if he decides to do so.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to see from him. MVP is going for a sneaky jump in here. He's going to be able to deny his command center at the very least and damage it. He will want to get away from that Hellion.
Yeah, he doesn't want to fight those just yet. But he has his own Hellion right now, and now he can do a lot. He takes down a Reaper of his opponent, tries to back off once again. Keep in mind that the starport is now halfway done. And since Ryung is committing completely to Reapers and Hellions, a Banshee would go a long way in this game.
Yeah. Currently, MVP starts a Widow Mine, and this is something that has been scouted. Well, he doesn't actually know it's a Widow Mine or a Hellion just yet, but he knows the factory is active.
Yeah, and he saw the starport, so he's not going into a Banshee here. That would be a little bit too transparent right now that it has been scouted. Ryung had another SCV at the top right. MVP, sneaky as he is, trying to lift his own barracks onto the location where we usually see the natural, so that it's impossible for Ryung to get access to that base too soon.
Yep. And currently, of course, the same thing going on over here with an eBay block. This costs, of course, Ryung a lot more money since he actually had to produce that.
Yeah, and also he didn't get too many hit points there. He has the cancel already, and now MVP, as soon as he has the minerals, he can start with his own command center.
Well, he's got it on the high ground, but he can move it down.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He's got the Widow Mine coming in with 1 Hellion. This Probably not going to do a ton of damage, but he can try.
You know, I really love this game. I mean, this is such a cool start into the series. This is exactly what you want here. I love that we are starting with a game where a player takes a risk, where MVP looks at his opponent and is like, there's no way I want to go into the long game against you. Not in game number 1. I'm trying to surprise you here, trying to use that element of surprise to get an early lead in the best of 3.
And he doesn't notice the medevac. He doesn't notice the medevac color. He's going to drop this right in here. 1 Widowmine in the main. No scans available. Widowmine gets the barrel.
Oh, that could have even been worse that it was only 1 kill so far. You know, he could have targeted that. There was only 2 units he had to control at this time. I'm a bit disappointed that he didn't target that into the bulk of the SCVs.
Yeah, and the scan, of course, is available as soon as that orbital finished, the second orbital. Second Widowmine here, boom, takes out a Hellion, almost gets a second one, and the barracks is actually still down there.
Yeah. Barracks still down at the bottom, and he's just trying to make that happen somehow with the Reapers that he has and the additional Hellions. At the top right, though, we have the Armory coming up for MVP. He wants to go into Hellbats.
Yeah, he's going into mech in general, as is evident by the fact that he leaves his barracks over there. But this is something that Ryung is doing as well. And, you know, I'm really curious to see how the rest of this game is going to play out. He defiantly leaves his barracks over there, floats into the main base, is going to get a scout. And just both of them go into Hellbats a little bit faster for MVP.
It's so funny to see that barracks just floating into the main base. Finally, we have some anti-air here, but up to this point, there wasn't even the Marine who could tickle the barracks. So now we have the Hellbats for MVP. He's also getting his own Viking now, and he will try to drop his opponent as soon as he can, whereas Ryung is just now walking across the map, trying to finally apply some pressure.
Yeah. It's finally the first time he's really going to be able to do something aggressive besides trying to bunker his opponent. But with the Widowmine here at the front, the bunker as well, and with no real way to break into the main base, I don't see it's working. He has the medevac, but he's going to walk right into defense here. He goes for it, and he jumps in with the Reapers as well. The medevac is taken out.
And MVP immediately boosts back with his own medevac, dropping those Hellbats, trying to get control of all those Hellions that are walking into his mineral line now. The supply depots have been lifted immediately, and the Hellbats here are trying to take down the rest of the units, but so far MVP with a really good defense against his opponent's aggression.
Exactly. You know, he just had the defensive Hellbats out, he killed the medevac, and that made this defense all the easier, and even the Reapers there, and clean up the last of the Hellions.
Yeah.
And
MVP taking
charge. Yeah, he definitely gets the advantage here.
Yeah, currently we have him with a little bit of a supply lead, but also with a better bank than his opponent, and he still has those Hellbat drops that he can use to pressure Ryung even further. We have now 3 Vikings against 2 in favor of Ryung, so MVP can't really go down with those Vikings on his own and trying to take down the anti-air. But with the double drop now heading towards the natural and the main base, Ryung has to be really careful, and he has to react just in time to pull those SCVs off the mineral line once the Hellbats are dropped.
He doesn't have any Widowmines out at all. That's something that MVP made, but Ryung did not. So he doesn't have any static defense, any bunkers. He's going to be in trouble here. The one thing he does have is these Vikings, but he only has 1 set of them, and the Hellbats may still drop out here. Oh, no, he does not drop them in time.
But we have those in the main base, and here come those 2 Hellbats being dropped immediately. The Hellions trying to do the best they can. They are faster than the Hellbats, so they can use that advantage to kite them. And with all the SCVs being pulled, not too many losses here for Ryung, and he is going for aggression on his own.
Yep, notice MVP, though, does have a bunker, reacts very quickly here, losing very little. And Ryung, just with all these Vikings out, is not going to have too big of a problem. Both players go into the 3rd command center, but MVP has his up landed first.
Yeah, has the command center landed already at the 3rd base and can now start mining, dropping a couple of mules. We still have this advantage in the air units in Vikings for Ryung, so he can really dominate this guys for now. But Ryung is just getting more and more units out into the game, while now MVP makes the switch into mech completely, gets additional factories out there, 3 at a time.
Yeah, 3 at a time, 4 at a time even, just trying to put us to shame here, and that Widowmine is going to continue to be annoying. I really love how MVP uses these Widowmines quite well. He forces another scan to be baited here.
Yeah, takes down one of the Hellions, baits out another scan, and now Ryung also floating over his command center trying to take the space. If you look at the overall supply, they are really staying fairly even here. So both players playing a great game, especially considering how we started. We started with 8 barracks and gas into Reapers for MVP, and Ryung defending with the same unit. Both of them are just now trying to get those upgrades out with the armory, going into the plating upgrades here for MVP, who goes into the base once again, drops both of those Hellions.
And Ryung just does not pull his SCVs.
And this time he's going to lose a lot of them.
Yeah, he's not reacting here at all. Oh my god.
Could have been even worse, but he took down 19 harvesters in total. Not, of course, with this drop alone, but over the course of the game, he did a lot of damage to the economy of his opponent.
He finds himself in a 10 harvester deficit, and that drop is cleaned up MVP just having better drop defense, having the stack defense, the Widow Mines, the turrets.
Yeah, and also the Vikings just waiting for the medivac to appear. MVP doing a great job in this first game. He's now at 117 supply, and he has the same amount of Hellbats as his opponent, but he's going into upgrade after upgrade. I have to give it to Ryung though. Him already halfway done with a +2 attack upgrade, that's really going to give him a little bit of an edge, and I love that he's going into the Banshee here.
Yeah. I mean, that's the type of thing that you can do when you know your opponent's anti-air is relatively limited. It can also be great as a defensive unit for some of these drops, because obviously the Hellbat's not going to just shoot up.
Yeah, one of the issues really for Ryung is going to be to catch up with MVP in economy. That's what he's currently trying to do, trying to get a hold on things here. But MVP looking fairly strong, and he wants to get in again. But first of all, he has to defend against the drop. The few Hellbats that just came out of the factory are immediately moving back.
The third base, though, is the problem. That's where he doesn't have any defense set up. He's sending his Vikings over there right away.
And now he's trying to corner that one medivac, and he's getting it. Gets the next shot off, no drop whatsoever, and Ryung's aggression is just... It has to completely evaporate. He didn't do anything in this game with his drops.
Yeah, he's falling further and further behind right now. Talking about unit counts, we have 21 Hellbats to 14 right now. MVP committing 7 more Hellbats. Ryung, on the other hand, during that production time, was actually making siege tanks, so he has a siege tank lead at 6-2.
Yeah, it's just those production cycles that MVP is now able to hit, and it gives him a huge advantage in supply too. He's heading into the +2 attack upgrade, trying to add this to his upgrades too. But now with this army on the map, he can actually move out and try to be aggressive again. We have at the bottom right of the map, Ryung already scouting. Is he trying to take a 4th base?
No, it's just a barracks going to
just
scout.
Barracks, okay.
But you know, MVP catching up on that siege tank count very quickly with the economy he has, but he's very behind in upgrades. Ryung is going to have an upgrade lead on him for a really long time here.
Isn't he on 1-1 and Ryung only on 2?
I will check that.
I think
for you.
Ryung.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Ryung
Ryung
got
completely
1-1.
focused on the attack upgrades. And here we have another drop, this time at the 3rd base, and also one at the natural, but a little bit too late. He doesn't drop in time, and the rest of the mech army for Ryung takes out those few drops that we had at the 3rd.
He killed some SCVs, and he also lost, forced all of lost mine time from Ryung, even though he didn't get a ton done with that drop. He's still ahead here, and he's starting to move across the map aggressively, directly with, you know, just a Hellbat tank army. We've seen Flash use this composition quite a bit. Notice he has a lot of Hellbats in those medivacs. He wants to actually drop them on top of his opponent's Hellbats.
And here we go, the both of them meeting in the middle of the map. And at this point, trying to get a hold on, a handle on all those medivacs.
That one Banshee.
Yeah, the Banshee is really chasing this away. And I talked about the dominance that we have for Ryung in the air battle, and that's exactly what he's using here. He has so many more Vikings than his opponent that it's no problem for him whatsoever to shield this Banshee from trouble.
Yeah, that one Banshee is actually just doing so much work to those Hellbats, and now a Thor has to be made by MVP.
Yeah, MVP is looking at it as like, okay, I have a really tough time keeping up with Viking production. I need something else, and the Thor is the only thing that he can really get. But the Banshee, up to the point where the Thor is in the game, can do so much here, taking off tanks, and this gives Ryung a bit of an edge, and Ryung is now moving in with his army. He gets the siege. MVP is completely neglecting to siege up. He's trying to fight this in tank mode.
Yeah, he fights this in tank mode. He goes for the boost in here. I don't know if this is going to work. He hopes for it to work. He jumps in right on top of those siege tanks. MVP dropping in supply like crazy.
He's dropping on top of his opponent's army, but he's dropping in supply way too fast. He's down to 110, and this is game.
GG, that one factor of the air dominance actually won Ryung this game. He had the better Vikings. He used that Banshee to control the fight.
Yeah, we have Ryung with a very good defense against the original strategy of MVP, going into the 8 Rex and Reaper, trying to go for aggression and maybe take down his opponent early on. Ryung did not gamble too much. He didn't go into a command center first, and therefore it was no problem for him to hold it once that he got a decent Reaper count out. But he did this really well. He always had a few SCVs at the edge. He knew that his Reaper count was a bit lower than MVP, so he had to commit a few additional units to it.
Right.
And the SCVs at the edge just waiting for the Reapers to jump up. That was exactly what he needed.
Yeah, that was exactly what he needed, and that's how it worked. I mean, yeah, he did lose a lot of harvesters, lost a lot of mine time. But when you're only starting at 8 harvesters versus a normal opening like we saw from Ryung, you know, it kind of equalizes a little bit the lost mine time, but also the gained mining time you had earlier. So good defense, no panic, you know, very nice reaction, a good scout of what was going on. He got into the main base, even tried to do the counter bunker, did the eBay block, just trying to be a little bit annoying.
I really like, though, that MVP was taking this chance and trying to go into a game and open things up with a bang here against Ryung, trying to surprise his opponent. It just shows that he is such a dangerous player to face. He can always play the macro game against you, but he can also try to surprise you with a little bit of cheese. One of the games that is, of course, completely unforgotten is the match that he played in the GSL finals in Code S last year, where he faced Squirtle, and then in the 7th game suddenly just pulls off a double barracks opening, something that very few players will actually do.
Especially not in Game 7 of a GSL finals.
So this just shows what a dangerous opponent he is. But he is down 1 game. The TVT sniper Ryung was able to win game number 1, and if he's able to take another map, then MVP will go down to, then he basically will go full foreigner and go down to the loser match.
Exactly. So keep in mind this is basically the exact same format we have in Code S. It's kind of what it's built off of, the 4-player group, best of 3s, 5 sets of matches. It's going to be first match, second match, then of course winner's match and loser's match. Winner of the winner's match advances, then the loser goes to face the winner of the loser's match, and then that other player also advances. So those of you guys who are not familiar, hopefully that explanation that was as quick as I could make it is helpful to you.
You have to win twice.
You have to win twice. You absolutely do, and you cannot lose twice or you're done.
Exactly. When you lose twice, you're out. When you win twice, you are going to advance to the next round. So that's basically how that's.
It's like you win twice and you have 2 lives, basically. That's how it is.
Yeah. So we are going to head into game number 2 pretty soon. I think the lobby is already open. We don't know about the map just yet.
Gonna jump in. I'll tell you guys the map. It is Akalon that he's chosen. Loser picks map.
Pretty cool. So Akalon going to be the next map here. And this is once again one of these maps where you can do a lot of shenanigans.
Yeah, 2-player map, smaller rush distance. Neoplanet S is also a 2-player map, so I guess the idea there is pretty good. And Neoplanet S is a map that's not really used outside of Kespa tournaments all too much, so maybe MVP was just like not practicing on that map too much until this tournament came up, so he was like, oh, I'm going to use this 888 Reaper build here. Makes sense.
Yeah, we could see a lot of very technical builds on Akalon too, a lot of drop play that we could see here with Widow Mines, maybe with a few Hellbats. There are just so many opportunities that the players have. One of the styles that Björn has been using in his TVTs a lot is going into Banshees once again, so there's a lot that you can actually pull off. And one of the players that we've always known to be very sneaky when it comes down to the builds is MVP. But Ryung, he is so strong. We keep saying this over and over again, but his Terran versus Terran is just excellent. We are going to jump into the game right now, game 2 between Ryung and MVP, and trying to find out if the Axiom player can get the 2-0 here against the LGIM veteran, or if MVP is actually going to force a game 3.
Here it is.